fired. Farley's choking the cities. People want action.
I know, but the public demand. I'll come up with create and figure out.
That's a big shift. What?
Okay, you can't hear it.
They won't like the Clean Air Act.
President Carter, gas shortages are everywhere. What's the plan?
We need long-term solutions. I was thinking solar energy conservation and the Department of
What regulations?
It's about independence, oil, whatever.
With the economy struggling, will environmental policies change?
The environmental policies are likely to change, but we can't afford to ignore the future.
Okay, so. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our deep dive into one of the most critical periods in environmental history, the years between 1968 and 1980. I'm Estella.
And I'm Zoe. Tonight we'll take you through how America woke up to the dangers of pollution, the rise of environmental movements, and the laws that reshape the way we treat our natural resources.
We'll cover the disasters that got people's attention, the first ever Earth Day, the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, and even the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Let's start from the beginning, before the 1970s, when pollution was seen as just a side effect of progress.
Before people really started caring about the environment, one book changed everything. Rachel Carson's Silent Springs, published in 1962. It exposed how pesticides, especially DDT, were poisoning wildlife, contaminating water, and even affecting human health.
Before Carson's book, people didn't question the use of chemicals in farming. DDT was used everywhere to kill insects on crops, on lawns, even in neighborhoods. But Carson showed how it was wiping out entire bird populations, affecting fish, and even making people sick.
It was a wake-up call. People started asking, if these chemicals are killing birds and fish, what are they doing to us? The chemical industry tried to discredit Carson, but her research was solid. Eventually, the U.S. banned DDT, and her book is credited with starting the modern environmental movement.
Even though Silent Spring got people talking, it took real disasters to get the government to act. One of the biggest was the Cuyahoga River fire in Ohio. In 1969, the river was so full of oil and industrial waste that it actually caught on fire.
And it wasn't the first time. The Cuyahoga had caught fire multiple times before, but this time it made national news. People were horrified. How could a river in the U.S. be so polluted that it could literally burn?
Then there were the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969. An oil rig off the coast of California had a blowout, spilling over 3 million gallons of crude oil into the ocean. It killed thousands of birds, fish, and sea mammals. The beaches were covered in black sludge and people had enough.
These disasters weren't just bad luck. They were the result of industries dumping waste with no consequences. Public anger was growing and politicians had to respond.
Then came a game changer, Earth Day. On April 22nd, 1970, over 20 million Americans took the streets to demand action. It was one of the largest protests in U.S. history, with students, activists, and even regular families marching for clean air and water.
Earth Day wasn't just symbolic, it led to real change. The same year, President Nixon created the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to enforce pollution laws. For the first time, industries couldn't dump chemicals into rivers or release toxic smoke into the air without facing penalties.
The 1970s also saw the passage of some of the most important environmental laws ever. There was the Clean Air Act, where it required industries to reduce air pollution and set limits on harmful emissions. The Clean Water Act, which made it illegal to dump toxic waste into rivers and lakes. Endangered Species Act in 1973 that protected animals from extinction by preserving their habitats, and Safe Drinking Water Act that made sure that the water coming out of people's taps was clean and safe to drink.
And these laws actually worked. Over the next few decades, air pollution dropped dramatically. Rivers that were once dead came back to life, and dozens of species were saved from extinction.
But the environmental movement wasn't just about pollution. In the mid-1970s, America faced a new crisis, the energy crisis. In 1973, oil-producing countries in the Middle East cut off their supply to the U.S. gas prices and the US gas prices skyrocketed, and Americans had to wait in line for hours just to fill up their cars.
The crisis made people realize that America was too dependent on foreign oil. That's when President Jimmy Carter took action. In 1977, he created the Department of Energy to find new energy sources. He also encouraged people to conserve energy by using solar power and driving fuel-efficient cars.
Carter even put solar panels on the White House, but not everyone supported his ideas. Some people thought switching to renewable energy was too expensive, and when Ronald Reagan became president in 1981, he removed the solar panels.
So what did the environmental movement of 1968 to 1980 accomplish? A lot. The government passed some of the strongest environmental laws ever. Pollution levels dropped, and protecting nature became a priority.
And even though we still face environmental challenges today, like climate change and deforestation, the foundation for protecting the planet was built during this time.
The Clean Air and Water Acts, the EPA, Earth Day, these weren't just events from the past. They shaped how we think about the environment today.
And the message from the 1970s still stands. If people demand change, real progress can happen. That's all for tonight. Thanks for tuning in our special report on environmental movement. We'll see you next time.